welcome everybody to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm your host, rocking the baby blue, the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. To my upper left corner, I got the man that's running the ones and twos, college kid Charles Simpson. How you feeling tonight, Cottrell?
Can't complain, man. Can't complain at all.
Well, listen, if you're going to complain, no one's going to listen anyway. You realize there's too many selfish people in this world already. To my upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally. How you feeling tonight, Shall?
I'm good. I'm not gonna do any complaining like Cottrell. Just there's only one room for one complainer on this show.
He said can't complain. You taking shots already? What is this, Big Ten rivalry sparking up? We're not even both your basketball teams stink. We can't talk about that.
Well, we're getting well, I mean, there's hope for a couple of our teams. Ohio State's not one of them.
Whew, more shots fired.
We're getting hot.
All right, well, we got a lot to get into today. Today's an action-packed show. We got the first baseman's list, MLB. I think I don't know, but I feel like my number one will not be anyone's number one, but we'll find that out shortly. We also have UFC. We got NCAA men's basketball. We're going to do some bracketology. NFL Combine report, a trivia question in honor of the new trivia show on Sports Empire Network. And you got to be kidding me. So it's a lot to get into. Are you all ready? Are we ready to get started?
Let's ready?
Go.
Wednesday nights are fun. Well, let's start with our first baseman's list. MLB first baseman's list. Top 10. Yeah, as I thought. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I really just didn't. Shall, you're a little wild with one. Just first look, I'm looking. Okay, I see it now. I see it now. All right, let's get started. Cottrell, you can start the wrap around, get us popping.
All right, so my first guy coming in number 10, Jake Cronenworth of the San Diego Padres. I know normally he's considered a second baseman, but them getting Bogarts and what they have over there, pretty sure Cronenworth's going to move over to first base this upcoming season. He's already been playing there through spring training and getting a lot of looks there. And look, defensively at second base, he was one of the best. And I think him moving over to first base will make it even easier for him. And then you also look at his numbers hitting wise. I mean, he was an all-star last year, and you add in the bat like Bogarts. I think your numbers will only improve. And he's been improving RBI wise, every year so far through his first 3 seasons. I think Cronenworth's going to be poised for a bigger jump this upcoming season.
Okay. Yeah, Shally, let us hear about your Oriole.
I like when the Ohio State guys got to start the show off talking about a Michigan guy. That makes me happy. I got Ryan Mountcastle. Talked about last show when we were talking about Oddly. Baltimore's gonna be a very sneaky good team this year. 2 years ago, he hit 33 home runs. Last year, fell off back down to 23. I think that lineup is poised to do big things this year. I think he has a little bit of a bounce back year. I struggle with the number 10 spot. I consider Jake. I consider the guy Gene's about to talk to next, but he can't catch a cold, so left him off this list. I went with Ryan. I think he has a lot of upside. He's actually sneaky good defensively, and I think that Baltimore Orioles lineup is going to put up runs this year, and he's going to be right in the middle of it with Adley Rutschman. So I have number 10 to start off my list this week.
I'm really interested. I really like when I get to start a show off with 2 guys that aren't on either of your guys' list, and that's fine. I went with home runs. That's what I went with. With 10 and 9, I went with guys that hit the ball out of the ballpark. They're not plus defenders at all. Both of them could be strong arguments for DHs, but I'll get into both of them at the same spot. Rhys Hoskins and CJ Cron. Both those guys can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Cron had 29 home runs last year. You've seen what Hoskins did in the postseason. Both of them are not great defenders, either one of them. But their bats are too good not to be on the top 10 list. And if you're asking me who I want up in the lineup, it's Ryan Mountcastle, Jake Cronenworth, or Rhys Hoskins, I'm taking Rhys 100 times out of 100. I am. You can laugh all you want. Rhys Hoskins is a better hitter than any of your top 8, 9, or 10?
They're both considerably better overall hitters. Reese might hit you
Definitely
home.
not 8.
Yeah, might hit you home run when he needs to. He might strike out 4 straight times too.
That's my
No,
10 and 9.
number 8 for Christian Walker. Have the reigning NL uh, Golden Glove winner at first base. It's another big reason he's on the list over Rhys Hoskins. Also, a guy with a lot of pop, and he's pretty much the best hitter on a really bad Arizona team. He carried that team a lot in the second half last year. Still up around 280. Almost broke the 100 RBI barrier last year. I believe he had 96. Young kid continues to improve. He's going to continue to look at good pitches on that team because, like I said, he's the only really good hitter in that lineup. Again, another guy that I think has a lot of potential to continue to climb this list. He's young. I already talked about he's great defensively. When you're putting him in, the conversation of a Paul Goldschmidt and Freddie and people, Matt Olson, people like that, and he won the Golden Glove over all of them. Kid has a lot of potential, still has room to grow. Would love to see him get out of Arizona. Continues to be a good hitter. He cut down on the strikeout rate last year. That's why he's number 9 on my list.
All right, my number 9, Ty France from the Rays. Last season had a decent season, like 270 average, 20 home runs. I like what Ty does at the plate. Gene, you talked about Rhys Hoskins and his ability to hit home runs. Ty France can hit home runs, and he's going to bat a little bit better as well. So I thought about like Rhys. Rhys was in my 11, 12 range, but I like Ty France's consistency a little bit more. And then Nathaniel Lowe for the Texas Rangers are my number 8. I think the Rangers are going to be a good team this year. They keep spending money. I think they're going to be in the playoffs this upcoming season, and Nathaniel Lowe is going to be a big part of that. Bats 300. He could hit. I think this upcoming season, I think he can hit 30 home runs. So I think he's going to be poised for a big season on a Rangers team that's going to break out this upcoming season.
I'm Nathaniel Lowe as well at number 8 for me. Cottrell hit on some of the good points already. They're starting to really build a good lineup in Texas. That lineup's going to continue to produce. One of the biggest things, upsides about him is he is more of a contact hitter. He will hit 25, 30. That's probably about his max power-wise. He's also going to hit you 280, hit a bunch of doubles. Another guy that was right on the breaking point of breaking 100 RBIs last year. I think he continues to improve. He doesn't strike out a lot. He's a pretty good overall hitter, and he's not bad defensively. So again, I mean, they let go. They got rid of Joey Gallo and a couple other people last year. They thought, we're going to be in, competition for that spot. And Nathaniel Lowe took that spot over last year and held it and had a monster second half for Texas. So I think Texas is in the same category as Baltimore. Like Cottrell said, they're spending money. They're bringing, big name free agents over there. I think they're going to hit. They're going to be a hitter-friendly ballpark. I think he puts up big numbers this year. So Nathaniel Lowe, number 8 for me.
I have no issue with Nathaniel Lowe. I love Nathaniel Lowe. I have him number 7. Christian Walker's my number 8. The issue I'm going to have is you guys are overvaluing Ty France, in my opinion. And you can say what you want to say, but the guy had 20 home runs. Let's not act like he hits the ball out of the ballpark. He had 10 less home runs. He walked half the amount of times that Rhys did. And yes, he's a better defender than Rhys Hoskins. Everybody in the league is. But to have him 7 and 9 is just I'll be honest with you. He wasn't 12 for me. Christian Walker is number 8.
He hits 45 points higher, too.
He does, 100%. 45 points, 10 less home runs, and 37 less walks is huge.
He still had more runs than RBIs. Home runs aren't the only thing in baseball.
That lineup is a lot. There's a lot more people to hit the ball in the Phillies lineup than is going to be hitting the ball in the Texas Rangers lineup. So I got Christian Walker number 8, and I think that Christian Walker could be higher on this list. I'm infatuated with the kid. Great defensive, first baseman, hit 30 home runs. He does everything that you need him to do. I really want to put him higher on the list, but I like Nate Lowe, and I like the way he hits the ball. Guy batted over 300 last year. Once again, 29 home runs. And he's he's not a minus defender. He's barely a plus defender, but he's not a minus defender. So I'll take that at my number 7.
I have 7. I have Ty France. I just talked about Nathaniel Lowe. I think these two guys are they're almost interchangeable in some aspects. Ty France plays in a very pitcher friendly ballpark, on a team that struggles to score runs, and with the emergence of himself and Rodriguez last year, or not Rodriguez, sorry, Wander
Yeah,
Franco.
Julio.
I think they Julio. Well, yeah, but wrong team. But Wander Franco is what I was trying to think of. Um, they're going to be right in the heart of that Rays lineup all year. Ty France also, again, I mean, he is a high 285 to 300 hitter. He's got a lot of powers in the gap, in the alleys. Again, he's probably going to max around 25 home runs. To Gene's point, he's not a great defender, but he's plus. I mean, he's not negative. He's not going to hurt you, and he's going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to keep hitting. He's a good hitter. He's got one of the highest barrel rates out of anybody on anybody's list right here. I think he's third behind. I believe it was Goldschmidt and Freddie last year, and ahead of people like Alonso and Olson. So, everybody loves home runs, and they're great. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So, hitting 285 and hitting a bunch of doubles and still almost knocking in 100 runs, that gets you on my list. So he's number 7 for me.
My number 7 is Jose Abreu, a guy who I feel like in the past has been higher on our list when we've done these before, but he's getting a little older and things like that. I will say I was definitely impressed this past season. Normally Abreu's smacking home runs. He only had 15, 18, something in that ballpark last year, but he batted over 300. I think him in that Astros lineup, that'll be good for him. Probably have a ton of RBIs. So I think Jose Abreu, I think he takes a step back from where we've seen him in the past, but I still think he's going to be a top 10 first baseman. My number 6, Christian Walker, guy you guys have both talked about already. I really loved what I've seen out of him last season. 36 home runs and the ability to win a Gold Glove. Like you're doing it on both sides of the ball, and I fully expect him to do that again this upcoming season. I know he's on a terrible team in Arizona, but I fully expect him to still be a bright spot on a terrible team. So Christian Walker's covered it at 6 for me.
Number 6, I have Jose Abreu from Houston. I would say if he was still in Chicago, he'd probably be lower on this list. Might be struggling to get on the bottom of it. I think them inserting him, he's going to go into a new environment with a very strong lineup. I think his number is going to take a little bit of a spike. He's going to be around. He's going into a World Series lineup that coming off of a year that the team just won the World Series. I think his number is going to go up a little bit. I think changing the scenery helps him. I think it motivates him a little bit. And I just don't think he was happy at the end in Chicago. I think there was a lot of stuff going on there, behind the scenes with La Russa and that whole debacle of last year. So I think the change to Houston is a big upgrade for him. I think hitting in that lineup is going to be a huge upgrade. There's going to be people on base all the time when he comes up. I think his numbers go back up close to not peak Jose Abreu. I think we're past that, but I think his numbers spike up to closer to what we're used to seeing out of him. So that's the reason he's up on number 6 for me this year.
Well, I struggle with this one because I want to put Jose Abreu higher. I think that a lot of the things that you guys hit on are accurate, except you're predicting the fall off a cliff. He's moving to Houston, who has a short porch in left field. His power numbers are going to take a jump by hitting the ball over the short porch in left field. He's in a way better lineup. He had no protection around him in Chicago whatsoever. You're talking about a guy that batted over 300 last year. Jose Abreu is always in, it's further down the list, but he's 17th best player in the league last year as far as his MVP voting. Jose Abreu is a very good first baseman as a whole and a great hitter. It's just the 5 people ahead of him are way better at the position. And as much as I wanted to move him up and predict a breakout season, we all have him around the same spot. My number 5 is Pete Alonso, the polar bear. One trick pony, but that one trick is bombs. I mean, Pete Alonso crushes the ball. Talking about a guy that won back-to-back home run derbies, didn't win this past year, but man, Pete Alonso is exactly, and he does it in New York in a cold weather environment. Bats in the middle of that lineup of a 100-win baseball team. he's just continuously getting better. I got Pete Alonso, number 5.
Yeah, number 5, I have Pete Alonso as well. Polar Bear, one of the best nicknames in all of baseball, in my opinion. Um, and I think Gene hit on some of it. I think the big thing with Pete Alonso, you have to give him credit for is consistency. He does his job pretty much over and over every time he's called upon to do it. He's going to play in a very high-powered offense in a lineup. He's going to hit right in the middle of it with Lindor and McNeil and people like that hitting in front of him. Depending on what the lineup is, he's going to have a million opportunities to drive in runs. And he's actually pretty good defensively. He's actually a little bit underrated defensively. He's better than people give him credit for. I think he has another monster year. Again, I don't like that he's in our division, but very good player. He's a Med, and I automatically hate him, but he's a very good player, and he's very, to Gene's point, being a one-trick pony. Dude is one of the last pure, real power hitters in the league. So he deserves all the accolades he gets on this list. That's why I have him number 5.
Number 5 is going to be Matt Olson from the Atlanta Braves. I obviously, Matt going from Oakland over to Atlanta. He had a breakout. Well, I shouldn't say breakout because he was a star even in Oakland, but him being in Atlanta last season had a great season. I fully expect him to build on that, and I wanted to put him higher, but again, like you were just saying with Jose Abreu, I just think the 4 guys that I have ahead of him are going to have MVP caliber seasons. I think Matt Olson's going to be close to that caliber, but I don't think he's quite going to get there. My number 4, Pete Alonso. You guys both just talked about him. 40 home runs last year, over 130 RBIs. I mean, he's been one of my favorite players to watch. I always have him higher on my list than you guys do, just because he's one of my favorite players to watch. I think his numbers this upcoming season are going to look very similar to what they did last year. Like I could see him getting the mid 40s in home runs and having 120 plus RBIs again. And even last year, I mean, he improved his batting average as well. So I think Pete Alonso is going to be in the thick of it for the MVP race when it gets down to the end of the season.
So number 4 for me, I have Matt Olson, the Atlanta Braves. I struggled. I went back and forth with him and Pete numerous times. The one thing I had to keep reminding myself is, that this is our projection list. That's what it boiled down to for me. Matt Olson is top 3 or 4 defensive first baseman in the league. And I think his numbers rebound a little bit to normal Matt Olson numbers this year. I think he's fully comfortable in Atlanta now. When guys switch cities, sometimes it takes a year. Some guys are distant. Some guys, hop on right away and they don't miss a beat. Other guys take a while to get settled and everything else. I look at the beginning of the season last year with all the Freddie Freeman stuff, and a lot of people were kind of like, if you remember when Freddie Freeman came back earlier in the year, I think a lot of that, to some degree, I think might have, bothered Olson a little bit, but he had a good second half. I think we get back to old Matt Olson this year. I think he's a slightly better year than Pete Alonso, and that's why I have him 4. I think his average will go back up a little bit. I think his power numbers were there last year. I think they increase a little bit. And again, he's very, very good defensively, so I don't think that's going to slip up. So I have number 4 and right outside the top 3 who I think, separate themselves a little bit from the rest of this list.
Yeah, there's definitely a border between the top 3 and the rest. I have Matt Olson 4 also. I think that defensively he's very good. I think he's growing into – I think next year you'll see him ahead of Freddie Freeman. I really believe that. I think that Freddie's getting just a little bit older, and Matt's getting and is still in the prime of his career. I think this will be one of the last huge years for Freddie Freeman, if I'm being completely honest, but I think he has a huge year. But Matt Olson is a perfect fit in Atlanta to just hop right into that Freddie Freeman role last year. He didn't hit for the average he's used to, but still knocked the ball out of the ballpark 36 times, over 100 RBIs, and he plays good defense. He's young, agile, for a big guy like Matt Olson. My number 3 is last year's MVP winner, Paul Goldschmidt. Now, 3, 2, and 1 are virtually interchangeable for me. But the one thing that I have to remind myself is not who's the best player on the list. It's who has the best season. And for me, Goldschmidt just came off the best season of his career. He won the NL MVP. To project him to have another season like that, I couldn't do it. I think Vlad takes a real step forward, and we'll talk about him shortly. I think Freddie takes a step forward, being more comfortable in LA. I think Goldie just takes a half a step back. Nothing crazy, but these are the top three guys. And it's by a million. And no disrespect to Paul Goldschmidt. I'm sure Paul Goldschmidt's family is mad at me right now for having him number 3 after winning the MVP. But it's my projection for 2023. It's not what happened last year. And Goldie was, no doubt about it, the MVP in National League last year.
Yeah, so when you have 3 elite players like this, I mean, you really have to nitpick and really kind of, get into some crazy numbers and, aspects of their game to separate them. I will tell you, I had a harder decision where I was going 2-3 versus where I was going 1-2. That's just my opinion. Vlad Guerrero, out of the 3 of these guys, is the weakest defensively. I think he started last year out on an absolute tear. He had a really cooling off period in the middle of the season, and then he kind of picked it back up towards the beginning of the year. For me, Vlad Guerrero is one of the must-watch people in all of baseball. I love watching the kid play. I love what he's done, for going to third base, learning a new position to play first base. He lost a lot of weight coming to camp last year. He's taking everything about being a professional seriously. I think a lot of that comes from his dad. But, for me, it's kind of like what Gene's just said. It's really splitting hairs. I can't be mad or even disagree with any of the order these 3 guys are in. For me, it's the consistency thing. I think Freddie and Goldschmidt, day in and day out, are just a little bit more consistent, better hitters than Guerrero. I think Guerrero, when he shines and has those big moments, I think they're amazing. And like I said, I love watching the kid play. I just think day in and day out, I think Freddie and Paul are still just a tiny step ahead of Vlad. But Vlad, being as young as he is, I mean, coming up on the next 5 or 6 years, he's just going to rule this list. So this year, I have him number 3.
Gene, I couldn't agree more with what you said about Paul Goldschmidt. That's why I have him at number 3. Him coming off of the MVP season that he had last year, there's absolutely, I shouldn't say there's no way, but for me, especially, given that this is a projections list, there's no way that I could see him replicating that exact season, him winning MVP. So I think his numbers are going to take a slight decline, and that's not even a slight to him. I just don't think he's going to have, MVP of the National League type season this upcoming year. Like, I still think he's going to be special. I still think he's going to, be an all-star and be in the conversation at the end of the year. I just don't think he's going to be number 1 on top of the NL MVP list. So that's why I had him at number 3. My number 2 is a guy who I think can win the MVP in the AL and, was very close a couple of years ago, and that's Vlad Guerrero Jr. I know his hitting numbers took a little bit of a decline compared to his season 2 seasons ago, but, I think it's impressive for a guy who came in as a third baseman and he's already won a Gold Glove at first base. Like, there's something to say about that. So I think he is bought in defensively. He may not be, obviously he's not the best, defensive first baseman in the league, but he's bought in and he makes plays, and we know what he can do at the plate. He's on a young Toronto team that's going to be in the thick of it come the playoff time, and they're going to have a chance to win a World Series upcoming year. And I think Vlad Guerrero is going to be the catalyst to that, and that's why he's sitting at number 2 for me.
So number 2 for me, I'm going with Freddie Freeman in LA. I've talked about him on the show before. If you watched anything behind the scenes with him and his family, he kind of falls in the same category as Vlad, but for a different reason. I love watching Freddie Freeman play. He kind of reminds me of he's in the mold of like a Chase Utley type player. Really quiet, plays the game hard, plays the game intense, but he's still a good dude. Freddie Freeman's one of the best left-handed hitters in all of baseball. Very good defensively. I think his numbers take a slight tick up this year from where they were last year. He started off really slow last year, which isn't necessarily normal for him. I think a lot of it had to do with acclimating to LA. We saw all the drama with Atlanta when he went back, and then all the reports came out that his agent never offered him um, the last offer from Atlanta for an extension, blah blah blah. And you saw emotionally, you saw how much it got to him. I think in the second half when he finally put that behind him and got settled in, he looked like the old Freddie Freeman. So I think he's going to be asked to shoulder a little bit more of the load this year. They did lose Trey Turner. That went into my decision as well. They have Mookie up top, but you're losing a ton of production in a guy who's on base all the time when Freddie Freeman comes up. So, um, I think LA has a couple more holes in their lineup than they used to. I think Freddie's going to do Freddie, but again, I think his numbers only take a slight tick up from where they were last year because I just don't think LA is going to score as many runs as they did last year. But again, an absolute great player, great person, one of my favorites. But I have him number 2 this year.
Well, I got Freddie Freeman too. Also, I actually think his numbers take a slight tick up. I think he has a very good season as a whole. I think he's more comfortable in LA. I think they'll rely on him a lot more. He has protection behind him. He's got Mookie in front of him. I think Mookie's going to lead off for them this year, right? With Gavin Lux getting hurt and no.
Mookie's been leading off.
Yeah, I know, but Trey Turner was 1 and 2 with them, and Freddie was batting 3. They might move Freddie to the 2 hole. I feel like as a whole that Freddie Freeman will be a lot more comfortable in LA this year, and I think that his numbers will show that. And the only reason I don't have him number 1 is I'm projecting an all-world season for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think he had a phenomenal year 1 MVP, 48 home runs, almost hit for the Triple Crown, and then took a step back last year. He had a little bit of a tough year. He started off hot and he had a huge slump at end of May until like mid-July. I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. hits 50 home runs this year. I think he wins the AL MVP. That's my prediction for who wins the AL MVP this year. So there's no doubt about it. I was going to have him number 1. And for all the first basemen that are just absolute sluggers, Vlad Guerrero Jr. still can do it with the glove. Like he's not a minus defender. He's not the best first baseman on the list, but he's far from the worst. So I think 50 home runs, 130 RBIs, and a really good season ahead for Vlad Guerrero in Toronto. Spoiler: I have Toronto winning the AL East also.
So number 1 for me, I have the reigning NL MVP. I do agree with both my co-hosts. I don't think he's going to win the MVP this year. I also think he can have just as good a year, or maybe even a little bit a tick back, and still have a better year than everybody on this list. I don't think he has to win MVP to be number 1 on this list. Not in my eyes, anyway. Obviously, Gene picking Vlad to win the AL MVP sheds a little light on why he has a number 1. So Goldie, went to St. Louis 2 years ago. His first year there. Again, we've talked about it with a couple other guys on this list. Didn't get super comfortable right away. He played for Arizona forever. And then last year you saw him get comfortable. And you saw the players St. Louis thought they were getting, that they signed, and he just murdered the ball. He has debatably the best protection on anybody on this list with Nolan Arenado hitting behind him. Great defensive first baseman. I don't think anything changes for Goldschmidt this year. You're also going to have Contreras batting behind Arenado this year, most likely. That 3-4-5 is deadly. So, if anything, he should see better pitches this year than he did last year. I think everything stays pretty much the same for Goldie across the board. Again, I don't think he wins the NL MVP. I still think statistically he has the best numbers out of anybody on this list this year. And that's why he held on to the number 1 spot for me this year.
Then my number 1 is a guy you both have already talked about, in Freddie Freeman. Obviously, he's been one of the best first basemen in the league for, the past few years. And we know what he does defensively, but I really liked what I saw out of him after he got comfortable in LA. You talk about Trey Turner not being there anymore. I'm actually somewhat in agreement with Gene. I don't think that matters too much for him. Like, obviously, it's better when you have a guy like that in your lineup, but I don't think his numbers are going to take too much of a drop from it. I think home runs compared to last year, I think it'll go up. But, I mean, he batted 325 last year. So I think obviously we know what Freddie Freeman can do defensively, and the reason why he's my number one, I think he's gonna strong case for winning NL MVP. Like I can easily see him batting, 315, 320, 30 home runs and on 100 RBIs, and arguably be one or two when it comes down to it for the Gold Glove. So I think Freddie Freeman is going to have MVP caliber season this upcoming year.
You want to hear something wild just for like commentary on this list? Do you know what Vlad Guerrero's WAR was last year? Like anywhere near it? Anyone want to take a guess?
No clue.
Probably the fives.
It was 3.3. The year he won MVP, it was 8.4. His wins against replacement was a huge difference. You know what Freddie Freeman's was last year?
I do not.
It was in the fives, 5.5. Paul Goldschmidt had a 7.8 wins against replacement last year, which is absurd. It's such a high number. You got to have just an all-world season and be a very good defender to have that type of WAR. So I think that it's very fitting that we project these three to be at the top of the list, and I think that Vlad has a huge bounce back year. I like that all three of us have a different number one, but us all having the same top three means we actually know what we're talking about, which is we're not just spitting out dumb names. We got some returns coming this week. We got a return coming this week. You got John Jones coming back to the ring, squaring off against Cyril Gahn. I feel like this is a card that is a lot better than it looks, right? So, like, we're really only going to break down a couple fights on this card. Like, we really only go over the championship fights. But Jalen Turner just signed in the fight, or I don't know if he was Gamrot, yeah. So you talk about Gamrot, a guy that was on his way up the leaderboard in the light heavyweight division, and then he lost to Bilal Muhammad in that 5-round decision, which Bilal Muhammad looked incredible. But all over this card, the welterweight fight's going to be a really good fight too. You get to see Bo Nickel on the pay-per-view card. He's going to run through Jamie Pickett, but still, I mean, you get to see Bo Nickel on the pay-per-view card. This is a really entertaining card, and it's a card I look forward to. It's not the card of the year. It's not going to be. It might not even be better than 286, but it's definitely an entertaining card. So I guess we'll start off with Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. And then when you guys give your prediction on that, if you guys want any other fight that you want to talk about or highlight, you can bring that up in that part. But championship fight, Cottrell said something to me Bill said something to me before the show, in which he said, I think they're just paying people a lot of money to step in the ring with Valentina. I remember a comment like that was said. And I remember that comment that was said about Amanda Nunes, and she ended up losing. What are and I know you're a huge Valentina fan, Cottrell, what are the chances that Alexa Grasso catches Valentina off guard on an off night and gets a win?
I would say 15%.
Ooh.
Like I don't think it's too likely. I think I'd be confident with a Valentina win here. Valentina, she's been locked in, and it feels like it's been a while since I know it hasn't really been that long. Like she fought last year, but it feels like it's been a while since we've seen her in the cage. But when she's in there, she's locked in, and I understand. Her last fight was very close against Santos, but that's a fight where you're dealing with someone with amazing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you have to figure out how you're going to play the ground game, things like that. I think in this fight, Alexa Grasso isn't a slouch. She's definitely deserving of this shot, but I don't see an aspect of this fight where I could see Valentina losing. Like, could she catch Valentina? Yeah, it's possible, but Valentina's she's so headstrong. Like I don't see Valentina being knocked out. And I think on the ground I would give the advantage to Valentina as well. So I don't see a way for it to happen, but again, I thought Amanda Nunez was invincible and she got knocked out. So uh, I got to give it some credence. That's why I say 15%, 10 to 15. I think 85, 90% chance. B plus to an A minus chance of Valentina coming home victorious in this fight.
So I want to comment on that before Bill goes. I think that your percentage is way higher than it should be. And I'm going to tell you why. What method of victory can Alexa Grasso beat Valentina Shevchenko in?
I think the
You
only
said
way.
could catch her, right? You
I
said
think
could
the
catch
only
her.
way. I think the only way would be the decision, but I don't see that happening.
So it's funny you said that. Do you know when her last knockout was?
I have no clue.
9 years ago. Versus Alida Gray. You're talking about a girl that came up from the 115 division to 125. She her last loss is against Carla Esparza. The Cookie Monster beat her and beat her decisively. And you look at the size difference between Carla Esparza and Valentina Shevchenko. I'm serious. Like, just look at the size difference. Shevchenko's a big 125 that could fight 135. Whereas Carla is the smallest of 115s that you're going to run into. And if Carla Esparza gave her everything that she can handle at 115, and then she moved up and got a majority decision win, she barely beat Macy Barber. I remember watching that fight thinking Macy Barber probably won the fight. 0.35. Less than 1%.
I'll say this. I'll say this too, though. If I didn't see Juliana Pena beat Amanda, I'm sure that percentage would be a lot lower. But because that happened, now I'm thinking. I mean, it can happen any given Saturday, essentially.
Just don't know how. Like,
I
Alexa
get it.
Grasso has made her whole career off being a striker. Like, I know Alexa Grasso. I watched way too many of her fights. But she's not a striker. So, like, she uses her striking to annoy people, to beat them by points. She's a point striker. She's a tap puncher. I don't know. We'll see. Bill, what percentage would you give Alexa Grasso in beating Valentina Shevchenko?
I'll go 1%, and I'll go 1% because if you say zero, you're saying it's impossible, and nothing is absolute in a fight game. So I'm not going to go 0%. I think the only thing is a hope and a prayer of landing some major overhand right that Valentina just doesn't see coming, and it hits her exactly on the button or something like that. But that's what you're hoping for if you're an Alexa Grasso fan. Other than that, she's going to get dominated in every aspect in this fight, like you guys have both already discussed. She's not better anywhere. Valentina's going to be the bigger fighter, going to be the stronger fighter. She's quicker, she's faster. She's just a better fighter. I made that comment, tongue in cheek, but it's kind of true. I mean, I think I don't think anybody's really jumping at the chance to get in the cage with her right now. Alexa Grasso is the next one up to for lack of a better term, be the sacrificial lamb. I think her situation and what we talked about previously, I don't think they're connected. I think Amanda Nunez, not making any excuses for her at all, but she did have a lot of stuff going on outside the cage that I think distracted her. And you walk into a cage unprepared and you get beat. That's what happened. Valentina is a very focused fighter, very disciplined. Like Cottrell said, I mean, you never watch her walk into a fight and think that she's out prepared or not ready to fight somebody. I think she's going to walk right through Alexa. Congrats, for showing up, getting your payday, getting your title fight. But Saturday night is not going to end well for her.
Yeah, but why not give Talia Santos another shot if you're going to throw Alexa Grasso in there?
I mean,
Like I just
I get it. I think he just wants to put somebody else different in. I mean, because you put her in, you go, all right, we're going to do this again. Like, I mean, again, I don't think there is. I think people want title shots. That's what you fight for and all that good stuff. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people are begging to get in the cage with her either.
And I think the other argument would be, especially depending on who Amanda fights next, maybe you think, hey, if I give Valentina a layup, she wins this fight, Amanda wins her next fight. Maybe we could finally get them in the cage for a third time. Like maybe we can get this super fight again. Both these women are at their prime. Like they seem untouchable. I know Amanda just lost 2 fights ago, but they seem untouchable now. Like maybe we can get this super fight again and bring in all the money from that.
They're going to have to, man. I mean, because I mean, honestly, I mean, in both divisions, he's kind of out of options. I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, it's. I think it'd be different if both of them had somebody in their weight class that we thought posed a credible threat to either one of them. I just I just don't think it's there. I mean, I think the best fight you could possibly put together is Valentina versus Amanda. Probably gonna have to do it at 130, but it's going to be interesting. I would love to see that fight. I'd love to see it again. I think Dana's out of options after they both fight again. I really do. I agree with you. I think it has to happen.
I don't know. It's funny. Preparing for the show, I looked at the 125 division, and Alexa Grasso is 6th in the division. She's behind Caitlin, blonde fighter Chokagian, Manon the Beast Fierot. But by the way, Manon Fierot is somebody that could fight her eventually, but just that's not for here nor there. Erin Blanchfield and
She
Talia
just got
Santos.
she just got a big win.
She did. I don't know. At the end of the day, I think the only fight you can make for her after this is Manon. But I agree. Agree with you. I don't see how she wins the fight. I don't see a method of victory. But I guess that's why they play the games. So I'll go 0.34%. That's my chances. Now this heavyweight fight, I don't feel the same way. I don't feel the same way. Cottrell, since you're such a huge John Jones fan, why don't you introduce the fight?
All right, so you got John Jones making his heavyweight debut. Obviously, he's been away from the cage for a while. He's had his I should say outside of the octagon issues. And then you got Cyril Gahn, who just a couple fights ago was fighting Francis Ngannou, and it went to a decision. And he's recently coming off of a win over Bam Bam in his last fight. I think this is going to be a really good fight. It'll be interesting to see how John Jones is after the long layoff. I mean, if anybody's used to the long layoffs, it would be him, because it seems like every time he fights, it's 2 to 3 years after his last one. But it'll be interesting to see, John Jones, I'll say, especially a light heavyweight. Obviously, he's known for his kickboxing, his ability to wrestle, all that. But his tank was a big thing that was in his favor. It'll be interesting to see if he still has that moving up, 20, 30. I don't know what he's going to actually come in at, but him moving up in weight, it'll be interesting to see how much of a tank that he has compared to seeing him in the light heavyweight division.
I agree. I think it is going to be interesting to see what he weighs in at on Friday. You've seen on the videos. I mean, he is definitely bigger than he used to be. I think one advantage he had, he's been able to put all that weight on in a very gradual pace. I don't think he had to do it in the form of a couple months. Obviously, his lack of discretion outside the cage, aiding in that with a couple suspensions and other things piling on there. But he looks a lot bigger. I mean, he didn't have to put a lot of wear and tear on his body in a short amount of time, he did it the right way. He could put it on slow and gradually build it. They showed a picture of it today. I saw it right before we came on air. He's messing around grappling with Chandler Jones, his brother, who's obviously, um, you know, a bigger human being. But I can tell you, I mean, it didn't look, he didn't look small, I'll put it that way. Cyril Gahn is not a huge heavyweight anyway. He's more of an athletic guy like John Jones is. Um, to Gene's point, man, I've said this for, since this fight's been signed. I mean, I think this is a dangerous fight for John. I think I think John's the better fighter. But I think this is a fight where if he doesn't go in and perform, I think he can easily lose. Cyril Gahn's been kind of circling the heavyweight belt for a couple years now. Couldn't get that big win against Ngannou. And now he's got another shot at it. I think this has to be able to be a really good fight. I think Gahn would prefer to maybe take the fight to the ground. John's a very good wrestler, obviously, that we've seen in the past. I think John's the better striker, and I think that's where the advantage of the fight is, with using his kickboxing. And I still think he's probably going to have.
You think the advantage of the fight is John striking?
I think between the two of them, I think John's a better striker. Absolutely, John's the cleaner, more technical puncher.
I got news for you, and I'll tell you this, and I'll be as direct as I can be. If John Jones does not try to wrestle Cyril Gahn, does not try to take him down, and not try to use wrestling, he is going to get knocked cold out in that ring. I'm telling you, listen to me. Listen to me. I'm telling you. If John Jones wants to win this fight, if John Jones wants to win this fight, he's going to have to wrestle and absolutely control Cyril Gahn. I think if I'm Cyril Gahn and I'm in his corner, I'm telling him you have to stop the takedown. If they stand, John will land more, Cyril will land harder. And if Cyril Gahn catches John Jones at heavyweight, this is like 40, 50 pounds heavier than where John Jones fought the majority of his fights. Cyril Gahn is going to knock him out clean. And I'm talking about stiff. Stiff as a board. If they stand and fight, John will land more and Cyril will land harder. That is not where John Jones wants to be at.
See, I mean, I disagree. Of course.
Of course you do. You think John Jones is better at everything than Cyril Gahn.
Yeah, I mean, you are right there. Obviously, Cyril Gahn has the power factor. Like I will give you that. But the one thing you got to keep in mind too is that John Jones' reach is still ridiculous. Like he's still going to have the reach advantage in this fight. Like even though he's the one coming up in the weight. The other thing too is that John utilizes kicks very well, and so I think that'll keep Cyril Gahn at distance enough where I don't think John's going to allow Cyril Gahn to get a lot of power behind those strikes. Now, obviously, Cyril Gahn's still going to be hitting a lot harder than what John saw at light heavyweight, but I think John's ability to kick, his ability to even just threaten the takedown, like I think Cyril Gahn he'll have to be very mindful of that, and so I don't think we're going to see Cyril Gahn just have the ability to tee off, even if they are just standing in front of each other. The other thing, too, is that I saw how Cyril Gahn looked in the fight against Bam Bam. And I know he got the knockout later in the fight. I believe it was third or fourth round. I think it was the fourth round. I saw Cyril Gahn. And obviously, with the heavyweights, as time moves on in that fight, the punches aren't being thrown as hard. So I think if John has the ability to push that pace, and the later that fight goes, I think John he's going to be getting less and less worried about being knocked out. Obviously, Gahn has the ability to do that, but I think John's going to worry about it less and less as that fight carries on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I was hoping you weren't going to bring up the kicks, but I watched it earlier. I watched some breakdown on ESPN today, and they were talking about, all three of them thought the same thing that Cottrell did. They think John Jones is going to kick a lot at the beginning of this fight. They're going to kick. They're going to keep him at distance. He's going to work his jab. He's going to try to take that front leg away from Gahn. If that happens, then then I think it becomes a long night for Gahn. I do agree with Gene. He is one hitter quitter power. He does. He catches John on the button. He's probably going to weigh in somewhere between 245 and 250. He's not a huge heavyweight. He's big, but he's also very athletic. I think that's something else that could give John Jones credit. He isn't a guy that just kind of wants to, plop around the ring and throw punches and try to knock people out. He's an athlete. Like, he can move. But again, this boils down to just, I think John's just a better overall fighter. I think John has more ways to win. The only thing that ever concerns me with anything with John Jones is where his head's at. Is he motivated? I would hope he would be. To possibly walk in the heavyweight division and fight one fight and be the champ. But again, we've seen him come into fights where he's not motivated. He looks disinterested. I hope that's not the case. If that is the case, then I think there's a chance he gets hurt Saturday. But if he comes in motivated, which I hope he would be, for, like I said, fighting for a belt and not fighting for over 2 years, I would hope we're getting a very focused, very determined John Jones. And I think if we get that, I just think he has the tools to beat Cyril Gane, and I think he gets his hand raised and he wins the fight set.
Okay. I my prediction on the fight is John Jones wrestles him, and I think that John Jones puts him on his back and puts him in a position to where he smothers. I think John Jones is way more complete of a fighter than Cyril Gane is. I think that you'll know right away if John wants to be cocky, and if John stands in the middle of the ring and wants to get in that karate stance and throw long leg kicks and be a showman, he is going to get knocked out. I'm telling you. The funny thing is, I think John Jones wins the fight because I think he does what the necessity is to win the fight. I think he's going to wrestle. I think he'll go after a single leg takedown early in the fight. But sir, you got to understand, Cyril Gane's got a motor. He is by far the most in shape heavyweight in the division. The guy does not really get tired. He's actually thrown 100 punches or landed 100 punches in 4 fights at the heavyweight division, which is absurd. Doesn't happen. He will point fight you, and he will also swing to knock you out. Cyril Gane also has submission abilities. He's not a huge submission guy. John's got to be careful on the ground. But John should win this fight wrestling. That's the way it should go. I'll tell you what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for them guys to stand and bang. And I'm telling you right now, I would love to see nothing more than Cyril Gane knock his clock off. Just completely, just flatline him in the ring. Couldn't happen to a better human being. I'm fully rooting for Cyril Gane, but if I had to give you a real pick, I would say John Jones wins the fight. And I think he wins it by TKO from on top. It maybe third round.
I'll say I'll go fourth round TKO. I like the stoppage, but you talked about him being cautious of Cyril Gane's submissions. I saw Cyril Gane get out wrestled by Francis Ngannou with 2 torn MCLs. If I'm John Jones, I'm not too worried about Cyril Gane on the ground. I think if you get him there, sure. you know this is your wheelhouse, and you'll be perfectly fine in whatever position. And that Cyril Gane's uncomfortable on the ground. But I mean, I agree. I think John is going to try and wrestle a lot in this fight. But I don't think I think if there's one round, like say second round, he comes out and he doesn't want to shoot right away and he wants to stand in front of Cyril Gane, I absolutely think he has the ability to do that without getting knocked out.
Okay. I see. The one thing that you brought up is you brought up the Francis fight with Francis out wrestled him with 2 torn MCL. The difference to me is how massive Francis Ngannou is. Like, that's a lot more weight to try to move off. I'll tell you right now, Cyril Gane will be able to get up multiple times from John Jones taking him down. But I think the way John wins the fight is constantly staying close, dirty boxing, in the clinch. I'm talking knees, elbows, against the cage, trying to control posture. I think that's John Jones' method to victory. I don't think he'll be able to hold Cyril Gane down on the ground. The size difference is just astronomical, bro.
I mean, I get the whole weight thing, but again, though, Francis Ngannou is by like the farthest thing from a wrestler. Like, we saw the first fight with him and Stipe. Like, Stipe is clearly not a huge heavyweight, and Stipe was able to take care of him. And I get it. Cyril Gahn is bigger, and yes, it will be easier to get up with a guy like John Jones, and as opposed to a guy like Francis Ngannou. But I think it's a little bit scarier in a sense because you knew Francis wasn't going to submit you, and I don't think John would necessarily try to win by submission, but of course that's going to be a threat when you're dealing with somebody technical like John. So yes, the strength will play a part into it, but I think Cyril's going to have to be real careful though, just because he's dealing with a much better wrestler.
Listen. I'm not gonna disagree with what you're saying there. I just think, and that's literally what I told you. John's method to victory is. I got Valentina in a 5-round decision over Alexa Grasso. I think it'll be 6-0. I think it'll be a 1-10-8 round. 50-44, 50-44, 50-45. And I think that John Jones will win by 3rd round TKO.
I got 2nd round submission for Valentina.
I'll go Valentina 3rd round TKO.
And what's your prediction for the Jones-Gahn fight?
I got Jones in the 4th round TKO, just like a Tro.
Okay.
I think the Jones-Gahn fight's a very good fight.
I think it's going to be a really good fight. And I think that John's going to be in dirty water for a little while. Just an opinion. I think there's going to be one time in that fight that Cyril Gahn catches him the way DC caught him in the 2nd time they fought before DC got knocked cold out, but like really made his face go like back. Like, you know what I'm talking about? I know you know what I'm talking about. The beginning of the 2nd round where DC kind of like hit him with the 1-2 up and just really caught him underneath the chin, like bloodied his lip. It's the first time you've seen like John Jones kind of being a little bit against the ropes, right? I think that Cyril Gahn will do that, and I don't think he's as easy as to knock out. I think that Cyril Gahn's never been knocked out, but we'll see. All right, well, I mean, anything else UFC 285, gentlemen?
I mean, you already talked about it at the beginning. I'm excited to see Jalen Turner. I think he's one of those truly up and coming lightweights. That 155 division, we talk about it all the time being the best division in the UFC. He's just another name. Like right now, I think he's ranked 10th. He's just another name that's going to be climbing those ranks. It's going to get real interesting. Especially we got Connor and Michael Chandler coming up here soon. You're going to have other fights as well in that 155. 155 division is getting real interesting.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think it'll be a good I think the card as a whole is filled with good fights. I really believe that. Fights that I just want to watch, right? We're going to move to NCAA basketball. See, I think Kevin, the troll, is more of a John Jones hater than even I am. Let's see if Jones gets dominated. He's now fighting a washed-up Pride fighter this fight. I think they have him lined up to fight Chuck Liddell next after Gahn.
I mean, he fought everybody in the division. Like, if there was a definition of cleaning out a division, it was that. I don't know what else you want him to do.
Facts.
I like this, which you just pulled up. I like this. This is a little bit nicer and cleaner than the bracketology that we looked at last week. I will say this. I will give anyone that wants it all top 4 seeds in all 4 regions, and I'll take the field in this tournament. You can get all 16 top 4 seeds, and I'll take the field. It's not that I dislike the top 16 teams right now. I like so many teams that are in the field that I think North Carolina could win the tournament still. I really believe that. They're starting to play good basketball. They have all the pieces to do it. I think Kentucky could win the tournament. They're not in here either.
No, I mean, if in North Carolina, I think they play Duke, Saturday, Monday? Yep. I forget, whenever it is. They beat Duke at home, they're going to be in. That's going to get them in as long as they don't lose their first round game in the tournament. That's going to be enough to put them in. Um, you got other teams that are going, that are going a little bit backwards here. Wisconsin's lost like 2 or 3 in a row. I have no idea how the hell Purdue's still number 1 seed. They've literally lost 3 or 4. Like, there's no way they could stay on that one line for me.
Agreed.
Give
I don't
me,
know
give
how
me. I
UCLA
don't.
would be
Yeah,
the one
give
I
me
go by.
UCLA. I think UCLA. I think Texas has an outside shot to get a 1 seed. There's just no way Purdue could stay as a 1. I need somebody to explain it to me. Um, I mean, it's funny. We talked about it last week. Between North Carolina, obviously, with us all picking them earlier in the year, and then Michigan, Ohio State, Villanova. Villanova's sneakily won 4 in a row, 2 against ranked teams. Michigan beat Wisconsin. They got a big game this weekend as well. If they win that, I think they sneak in. All of a sudden, it's kind of starting to look positive. All of a sudden, for everybody on the show. Sorry, Cottrell, but tell you what, man, I've watched Villanova's last 2 games, and that is
Yeah.
that is just a different basketball team now.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean they are healthy, and they are just beating everybody now. That is a team. I will tell you this. That is a team. If they somehow sneak into this tournament as like a 12 or a 13 seed, like you don't want to play them. You don't want to play them. You don't want to be anywhere near them. They could absolutely wreck brackets if you're not paying attention.
I mean, they got 3 guys on their roster that are elite talents. And with
Yep.
Justin Moore coming back and playing the way he has recently, like I think he's averaging 20 a game his last 5. Justin Moore, I remember I said this last year. I say he's the best player on Villanova, and people just didn't want to agree with me, and you did, and I appreciate that. But you also have Cam Whitmer, who's going to be a lottery pick. Villanova's got a squad. It's just I really don't know what to expect without Jay Wright there. I don't, but they're definitely peaking at the right time.
I mean, I think you're starting to see. I mean, Moore's only played, I think, 6 games. I mean, the last 4, it's been a complete different team. I think they're starting to gel. They're starting to get their floor spacing down, and I think they're learning how to play with each other now with everybody finally on the court. Like you said, with Whitmore, he's found his stride the last 2 games again, playing with Moore. They are a dangerous team, man. Again, there's you put them on the court and you just look at talent wise, they are not what they are, record wise. Um, Again, you put them in the tournament and put them on a court. There's not going to be many teams that are going to have a more talented starting 5 than Villanova if they get in.
They've won 6 out of their last 7. Their only loss being the Providence, which was just 2 weeks ago. They beat Seton Hall yesterday. Creighton, who's number 19 in the country.
They stomped
Xavier.
Creighton.
What?
They dominated Creighton.
Yeah.
I watched that whole game. They dominated Creighton. They had their starters out of the game with like 6 minutes to go.
I will say the other thing too that's interesting about like these teams, like we mentioned Nova, Bill. Of course, you've mentioned Michigan. Of the teams that are in the first 4 out, next 4 out, and then the bottom line that's being considered, I think you got 5, maybe 6 teams that if they make the tournament, they got a legit shot of not only making out of the first round, but making it to the Sweet 16, depending on how their matchups fall. Like, Gene, you talk about North Carolina having a shot of, if they make it in, of them winning national championship. I 100% agree, just because of the talent that they have and the experience that they have. Charleston's a team that I mentioned last week or a couple weeks ago. I think, obviously from where they started this year and where they're at now, it's been a huge dive, but I think that could be a team that, some schools overlook in the tournament. You got Villanova, who's playing their best basketball right now. I don't think anybody would want to see them in the tournament. Texas Tech plays defense. They play good basketball. Like I would think Texas Tech could be a tough out. And then Drake. I think Drake could be a sneaky team that could win a first round matchup kind of game, or even, go to the Sweet 16. So you got a lot of disparity this year in college basketball, and I don't necessarily agree with you. I would, if you gave me that bet, Gene, of the top 16 or the field, I mean, I take the top 16 comfortably, just because I don't trust anyone outside of them to make it all the way. But I definitely can see a bunch of big, big upsets this year in the tournament.
Well, let's do
I,
it. I'll give you the
I
top 16.
I see. I agree. The problem with it is for me is there's a bunch of teams in the top 16 that I don't think have a chance to
That
win either.
I
So
agree with
like
that.
so that's kind of where like I'm hesitant because like I'm looking at it right now like I'm throwing at least half of them out. Um,
Yeah,
Who do you throw out in the top 16? Because I hope you don't say, see, the funny thing is this, right? I'd feel more comfortable removing the 4 seeds and keeping UConn and Indiana. I'd want them to as
yeah,
part of my field,
I agree.
right?
I love UConn.
Gonzaga,
UConn is not one of them.
Gonzaga's
Xavier,
not winning it this year. Xavier's not winning it this year.
no, Virginia's not winning it. Marquette's not winning it. Tennessee is in a completely different boat than they were yesterday because they lost their starting point guard. That hurts. I agree with Cottrell. Gonzaga's got no shot. Arizona doesn't play enough defense for me.
Hell, Baylor doesn't play enough defense. I'm
Yeah,
not saying they got
Baylor's
no shot, but I mean Baylor can't get a stop if
like
they need.
if you're taking the top 16, you're looking at UConn, you're looking at UCLA, Texas, Bama, Kansas, and Houston. That's who you're
Yep,
betting on, in my opinion.
agreed.
I'd say UConn, Indiana. I like Indiana a lot. I think Indiana is very good. UCLA,
Yeah, that's
Kansas State,
See,
boat raced them by
I
Iowa last
like
night.
Alabama,
Kansas State.
Houston, Kansas.
I like Kansas State and Indiana because I think they have two of the top 10, top 15 players in the country.
Yeah.
So when you have a player of that caliber and you're winning games now, you get to a tournament and all it takes is for them to put the team on their back. Like
Yep.
we've seen guys go on these runs. So I'm okay with keeping them in the picture. I don't think Kansas State, even at the, I know they're a 2 seed. I don't see them winning it all, but they got Keontae Johnson and Indiana's got a Jackson Price. So I think both of them have the ability to make a run in a tournament.
So who comes out of the South? Who comes out of the South in this out of these top 4?
I mean, I think I'd have to take Alabama. Assuming nothing changes, they have the best player, in my opinion, out of those top 4 teams. It would be Alabama for me.
Okay. Control.
I agree. I take Bama as well.
I'll take Kansas State. How about the East?
East is tough.
I'll tell you
Again, man,
this.
if you take Tennessee at full strength too, man, I mean that is a murderer's row for a 1 seed to have Tennessee, Texas, and UConn as
Agreed.
your. That is brutal. I'd flip a coin between Texas and UConn. Honestly, I'm high on
I
both of them.
completely agree with you.
Yep,
I'm,
100%.
and honestly, whichever way it falls, I'm happy. I'm fine with it. I'd take it. I'd ride with it.
I probably trust the UConn just a little bit more. Um, but
Texas looks
yeah,
so good.
Texas would be
Texas, they got a huge one. I think either Saturday or Sunday they play Kansas, and I think if Kansas wins, they win the Big 12 outright. If Texas wins, it's a split. Um, I mean, and I think that's at Texas, so that is a huge game. It's either Saturday or Sunday. I don't know which day it is, but um, Texas, that team, me included, I was high on them at the beginning of the year, and then Smart got fired, and I was kind of curious to see what was going to happen, and I think they lost like 2 out of 3 right out of the gate after they let them go, and they've rebounded nicely. They keep winning games now. They're
Dude,
very,
I can't wait to Saturday's a really nice day. You're
it
right.
is.
Kansas is
UNC.
playing at Texas. You want to know another really good game to look out for on Saturday?
What we got Saturday?
UConn is going to go to Villanova. And I'm telling you right now, man, that's
Nova's
going
going
to
to
be
win
a
that game.
war.
Nova wins that game, they're gonna pop up in that next
First
4
4.
out or first 4
Yeah.
out real quick. Thing with Nova is, man, I think they still have a shot to finish like 3rd or 4th in the Big East, and if they do that,
They get the
they're gonna
bye.
they're gonna get a bye.
Yeah.
the next game after that, they're gonna get somebody like Seton Hall or somebody like that who they should beat, and then all of a sudden Villanova's sitting there in the semifinals real quick.
Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, if you can help it, you don't want to see Providence and Creighton.
I think Creighton's the best team in the Big East still.
Agreed.
Even though Villanova, and I know Villanova just boat raced them. I just think Creighton shot the ball awful, but that's besides.
Here's the problem with Creighton. They shoot the ball well. They play zero defense, dude. They don't create turnovers. They just don't have a defense that I'm going to trust come tournament time when I need to stop. If I'm on the wrong side of the court, down 2 or up 2, and I need to have the ball back, Creighton is not a team that I have any confidence is going to do that. And that's what Villanova did, man. Villanova drove, kicked out, and shot. And when they had easy buckets, Cam Whitmore had like 3 dunks in the course of like 7 minutes. Yeah. Dude just couldn't stay in front of them. They just don't play defense. They're in the bottom. I think it's like bottom. There was some crazy stat. They're like bottom 5 or 6 in the country at causing turnovers. They just don't play defense. It's a big no-no for me come tournament time.
When you look at this Saturday slate, you're going to open up with Alabama at A&M.
It's a big game too.
Then your 4:00, you're going to have your Kansas at Texas.
Huge game.
Your 7:30, you're going to get UConn at Villanova.
That's probably Wells Fargo then too. That's probably going to be a sellout. That's going to be a huge game.
It's a Fox game too, so it probably is at Wells Fargo.
Probably.
And then Arizona at UCLA is your 10:00 game.
That's another big game. That's a big. I mean, listen, it's the last weekend of the regular season. I mean, all the conference tournaments start next week. So
yeah, some of them already started. Some of them start like this week.
Yeah, they're really small ones.
Heartbreaker. That half court 3 at the buzzer was nuts.
Who?
Arizona. They lost to Arizona State.
I'll tell you what, man. I watched a lot of that game. Arizona let them back in the game like 4 times.
They did.
Like they went on like mini runs, or they were up by 9 with like a minute and a half to go, and just literally stopped playing defense. It was crazy. But I mean, Arizona's a good team. I think they're a year away, depending on who stays and goes. But again, I mean, it's not a team you want to have to play.
No, by any means.
I think this Midwest region is. Obviously, I think the East normally, like if Tennessee was healthy, I think that was murderer's row. I think the Midwest has got, I think they got 3 teams that could legit win the title.
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana would have to have a prolonged hot streak. They just absolutely got their dicks kicked in last night on their home floor by Iowa. But I mean, I'm high on Kansas. I think Kansas has a legit shot to repeat. But if I had to pick, anybody not on that top line, it'd be hard for me to take. As high as I am on Texas and UConn, it'd be hard for me to take them over UCLA as my next favorite. UCLA is really freaking good.
UCLA right now. Yeah, UCLA right now is definitely my favorite to win it all.
I'll stick with Kansas there, but again, by the slimmest of margins, and by no means would I be surprised at all if they played each other and UCLA won. Like not even a little bit.
Give me Indiana. I'm predicting madness this tournament.
I think you're gonna get it.
Madness.
I think you're going to get it because I think a lot of these, you're going to get something that's very similar to last year. I think you're going to get a lot of these teams that were in the middle of a big conference, and they're going to play these smaller schools that are really good. And I think you're going to get a lot of upsets.
Look, I'm a local guy, and I can tell you, looking at the first 4 in and first 4 out, and then considered, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Penn State is a better team than Villanova.
No, it's just they've. I mean, listen. The one thing that's been confusing to me this year is, and I'm only using Michigan in this example just because, I just know it. I know it offhand. Michigan's tied for second in the Big Ten. As bad as they were outside of conference, They're tied for second in the Big Ten. Penn State's a game behind, I believe. Even a
No.
team like Villanova, who is still the ability to finish top 3 or top 4 in the Big East. I mean, even a team like Texas Tech, who is something like 6-13 in the league, and they're the next 4 out. I don't get it.
In
I
the
know.
Big Ten, here's all the teams ahead of Penn State: Purdue, Maryland, Michigan, Northwestern, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan State, Rutgers, Wisconsin.
Yeah, but aren't 3 or 4 of those teams all the same record though?
No.
I know Michigan's 11-7. I know there's a couple other teams that are as well.
But Michigan's 11-7 with Maryland and Northwestern. Penn State's 8-10.
Okay. I mean, Texas Tech, again, I think is like 6-12, something like that. I mean, you put them on a neutral floor, I'll take Penn State.
If you put any of those teams outside of North Carolina on a neutral floor with Villanova right now, Villanova beats them by 10.
I wouldn't disagree with that, probably.
And that's like my point. Like, come tournament time, I want to see the best teams. And Justin Moore was not on the team all year. I get resumes matter, but like quad wins matter, quality wins matter, and Villanova's got 2 ranked wins in the last week.
But that's the difference, though. It's not about like they do it differently than college football. I'm not saying it's the right way or a wrong way, but it's all about like the metrics. Like you don't have, they're big on the quad 1 wins, and so Michigan being in the Big Ten, Penn State being in the Big Ten, they're gonna have X amount of teams making it to the tournament, and yeah, Nova's in the Big East, and they're gonna have a few teams make it as well, but. Michigan's got a recent win over a Michigan State team, and Penn State. I forgot who they beat earlier in the year, but they got a Big Ten win that's decent. Like it's dumb because it should be about who's hot right now.
I mean, if you're lying to yourself, you're lying to yourself. But the Big Ten's not better than the Big East this year. You can lie to yourself all you want. They're not.
They're gonna have. I mean, you could say that they're gonna have more teams in the tournament.
I don't care about more teams in the tournament. Marquette, Xavier, Providence, Creighton, UConn, Villanova. That top 6 are better than the top 6 in the Big Ten, and I'm 100% sure of it.
I don't disagree with you, like I said, but you're going to have more Big Ten teams in the tournament, and that's what it's all going to go into these numbers.
There's more Big Ten teams.
Quad 1 wins and all that.
You realize the Big East only has 10 teams, right? Big Ten's got way more teams. 16, 15?
That's fine. It's still going to be more at the end of the day. No matter what way you slice this, more is more.
Penn State's got a huge game tonight, so a lot of the Penn State thing's going to work itself out. They're at Northwestern tonight at 9, so they win that game. That's probably going to jump them to the next category as well if they lose it. I mean, that's probably a Villanova team that sneaks in. What did you make this? Was this before or after Texas Tech lost last night, Cottrell?
This is today.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Eugene. I do think some things. I do like that they do that in football. Like if a football team has 1 loss and they're going against another team with another loss, but Team A didn't have their starting quarterback in that game, like that matters. Like that becomes part of the conversation. Basketball, they keep it strictly on paper, and it's all about the numbers and the metrics and where you fall and blah blah blah. So I mean, the problem with basketball is you're letting 64 teams in, and there's still always teams that have a really good case of not getting in. So there's over 300 Division I basketball programs. So I mean,
Xavier's also smacking Providence in Providence tonight.
Right.
Providence is not an easy place to play.
No, Providence plays drastically better at home than away too. I mean,
Auburn's beating Alabama right now by 10 in the second half.
Yeah, there's a lot of time left in that game. Alabama closes really well. They start
I know.
slow.
I know. I watched the Arkansas game.
Yeah, that's
one thing. Arkansas was blowing them out.
Well, the big thing, the thing that what's his face what helped that too was what's his face had 2 early fouls and sat out the last 10 minutes of the first half too for Alabama. Why can't I think of his name?
Brandon Miller.
Yeah. He had 2 fouls 10 minutes in the game. He didn't play the rest of the first half. That's Alabama's Achilles heel, though. I'll be honest. They don't have a ton of depth, and they start slow all the time. I don't care who they're playing. Like you tune into the game 8, 9, 10 minutes in the game, they're probably losing. But they close well. They close real well.
Who do you
I was
guys got in the
just
West?
I was gonna say
Sorry.
real quick, just to go back up to the Bama thing. I was just looking at a stat the other day. You know, Bama is one of the best when it comes to they don't give up a lot of 10-0 runs, and they're one of the best in the country at obtaining a 10-0 run. So one of the streakiest teams out there, and defensively, like no one's going to go on a run on them, and I think that's what's going to make that Bama team so dangerous come tourney time. But who I got in the West?
Yeah,
Probably would take.
I'm taking Houston.
same.
I would take Houston, but I probably, you know what? No, I'm taking Baylor. I take Baylor.
Give me two teams that aren't on this entire top 4 seeds in each side that could win the national championship.
Ooh.
North Carolina,
Oh.
Kentucky.
I mean, yeah, I think those are the easy two. North Carolina for me for sure. My other one would be Michigan State.
Okay. It'll be interesting. I got one more show before I go on my cruise, so I'll be picking my bracket from the cruise ship.
Bill, you got two?
I mean, I think North Carolina, Kentucky are the obvious two. Just the talent alone that they're going to put on the floor if they can get in. Again, I mean, I think that's the very like interesting thing that's going to happen in this tournament. You're going to have teams that they sneak in, like a North Carolina, like a Villanova. They're going to be like 10, 11, 12 seeds. And if you're a 3 or 4 seed, you're going to be absolutely pissed off if one of those two teams gets dropped into your
The
quarter.
best thing that can happen in North Carolina and Villanova is to become a 12 seed.
Yeah.
Because they're going to play a 5 and then a 4 before they have to play a 1 or 2. And it gets them into the second weekend of the tournament, and it just then it's anybody's game, right? Like the best thing that can happen to either one of those teams is to be an 11 or a 12 seed.
Yeah, I mean, like all the coaches even said, like you have to get through the first weekend. If you can win your first 2 games, you can get back on campus, you can practice, you get back in your routine, and it also gives the coaching staff a full week to scout. And then at that point, like Gene said, then anything can happen. And then I actually think it's the advantage of the team that just has better talent. That's why you see crazy matchups, and you see upsets all the time. I think seedings are. I don't want to say they get thrown out the window. I think they mean less and less the further you go into the tournament.
I completely agree.
I think the other thing too is that North Carolina is going to have not even just North Carolina, but if a Villanova team sneaks in, they are like where they're sitting at now. I mean, I don't see unless North Carolina wins the ACC, I don't think they get out of the last 4 in line. Same with Villanova, and unless they win the Big East, I don't see how they get out of the last 4 in line. So just based on what that's meant in years past is that they're going to most likely be an 11 seed in a play-in game, and then they're going to go up against a 6 seed, and then the following week, you're going to go up against most likely, a 3 seed most likely if everything goes chalk. So I definitely think that the advantage could be to them because as it stands right now, there isn't really a 3 seed outside of Arizona who I wouldn't want to run into, given Tennessee's recent injury.
I mean, does anybody have a handy who are the projected 5 seeds right now?
That I would assume it'd be TCU, St. Mary's, Miami, and San Diego State.
I get it for you real quick.
They're all losing to North Carolina, Villanova.
Just
Let's say the projected 5 seeds. I'll use bracketology. Are you ready?
Ready.
San Diego State,
Said that.
Miami.
Said that.
TCU.
And St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. North Carolina opens up a 5-point favorite versus every one of those teams.
I think
Agreed.
Miami would be interesting because Miami's already beat them this year. Neutral court. San Diego State is a typical San Diego State team. Play really good defense. They hustle. They're kind of big. They're like a poor man's Houston.
Thing is, though, is that, yeah, you say neutral court, but depending on where the site is at,
True.
if it's not close to one of these, TCU, St. Mary's, Miami, or San Diego State, the UNC fans are going to travel much better than those caliber
Oh, my
schools.
God. Could you imagine if UNC got put in the East bracket and there are 11 playing in Greensboro?
That's
not fair.
Well, they wouldn't do that.
Happens all the time.
They wouldn't.
What do you mean? It happens all the time.
I don't think they would do that for a last 4N team. I don't see that happening.
Just imagine, man. They put them in the East and they get the game in Greensboro to open up. Just like what are we doing?
Talk about you're going to have ADs just screaming.
Yeah, with them being that low, I highly doubt they would get put in the East. They're probably going to get moved, but
yeah, but the West has a bracket. The 11 seats playing in Greensboro too. Greensboro is a hot spot for opening matchups. They have an opening weekend.
Well, it's always been. It's a traditional site. They've used it every year.
Yeah, be interesting. Listen. At the end of the day, I tell you right now, give me UConn, Indiana in the field, and I'll give you the rest.
Sheesh.
And I want UConn, Indiana in the field.
I'm not giving you UConn. You can have Indiana. I'm not as high on Indiana as you are. You can have Indiana, not UConn.
Well, you're getting the top. You're getting.
But I already said we're throwing half of them out, dude. Purdue, no. Kansas State, no.
Purdue just shocked everybody.
If you're throwing half of them out, I'll give you UConn. Pick 6. I'll take the field.
You can have Purdue, Gene.
Yeah. All right. Then I'll take Bama, UConn, Texas, Kansas, UCLA, and Houston.
Okay, and I get the field.
Take them.
I win that.
I mean, we'll see.
Control. You want it? How many you want? What do you want? Do you want? Give me UConn, Indiana, and the field, or do you want to take 6?
I don't think I need 6. I think I just need 3. I think you're going to have Alabama, UCLA, or North Carolina be there at the end of the day.
Well, you're not allowed to get North Carolina to the field. You're not allowed to.
I'm just saying those would be my 3. I'd be comfortable with. You can have the field. I know you said can't have North Carolina. I'm making my own rules. I'm taking them anyway. I've been on them all year. They're sticking in my pocket.
I haven't been on them all year, but now I'm on them because they're so undervalued. So you know me. I like odds, bro. Give me odds.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Let's move on.
All right. You guys ready for the trivia question?
Oh, dude, I've been born ready for this shit.
All right. Well, you're talking about college basketball. It's feeding off that just a little bit.
Hoy vey. Definitely not my...
4 athletes win a Wooden Award, NBA MVP, and a Finals MVP. Can you name the 4?
All right, so me and Bill get to go together?
Sure.
Kareem.
Correct.
Okay, so I need to correct after each one, right? So the funny thing is, I don't know if Michael Jordan won a Wooden Award.
Oh,
he did.
Yes. To be fair, Kareem is on the list. I was trying to make it a bit easier. Since I think it was 1980 was what 1980.
So Kareem doesn't count.
Kareem can count. Sure, he's for sure done it, so counts. But there's been 4 since the 80s.
And Michael Jeffrey Jordan didn't win a Wooden Award?
He is that your answer?
Yeah, that's one of my guesses.
Okay, correct.
Okay. Who else would be on this list? You got the NBA Finals MVP
That's
NBA MVP really limits it. It really helps.
and I'm also like I'm working backwards from that.
Well, I mean, obviously not LeBron. We can go through Finals MVPs. Is the Wooden Award? Don't make fun of me.
It's the best college player.
Okay, so Steph Curry win the Wooden Award at Davidson?
I mean, I guess there's a chance.
I mean, he was unbelievable to hear at Davidson.
What about Durant?
No. Well, maybe he did. Texas, he was really good at Texas.
He's really good at Texas. Is Durant one of them?
Is that an answer?
Do we get 3 strikes?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I mean, are we going to use 2 strikes on Durant and Curry? Tim Duncan's got to be one. Did he never won MVP? Did he? Tim Duncan never won MVP?
I think Duncan won MVP, didn't he?
No, because you can watch how quick I can eliminate. Every finals LeBron was in, like the LeBron one, so you can eliminate those. Kawhi Leonard didn't win it.
No.
So you can go through it real quick. And it's like Andre Iguodala didn't win one, so that's not one. He won a finals MVP. You can literally go backwards, and if Control did it from the 80s, that Larry Bird win a Wooden Award.
See, weren't Larry and Magic like 79 though? What year did they graduate?
No, 80, 82, 83. And Bird won his MVPs 84, 85, 86.
All right, well then one of those two has to be one of the answers.
Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Larry Bird is correct.
Magic is not.
Magic is not.
Let's strike one.
So we have 2 though.
Yeah, but he's not giving us Kareem. There's 3 more.
No. You got Jordan.
No,
we got Jordan and Bird.
Jordan, okay.
There's 2 more.
Got 2 more.
There's 2 more. Okay. I'm guessing they're all legends at this point. Like, there's no like not legend, right? Like, there's no not top 20 player of all time on this.
I'm trying to think who else. Like, I mean, I don't think Dwayne Wade won a Wooden Award.
No, he was not even that. He was good coming out of Marquette, but he wasn't like.
That's what I mean. Kobe didn't go to college.
Well, who would have won the Wooden Award that year? Because LeBron went 1, Darko went 2, Melo went 3, and who would have won that award if Dwayne Wade didn't win it?
Might have been Melo.
Yeah, Syracuse, but he never won a finals or MVP.
No. What about Shaq?
I don't think Wade's won an MVP though. By the way, sorry.
Shaq won an MVP.
Shaq went from high school, didn't he? Shaq went from high school. He didn't play college.
He went to LSU.
Oh yeah, he did. But he didn't win a Wooden Award. All right. Are you laughing because it is Shaq?
No, I'm laughing because you're like, hey, he didn't do that.
Okay. Didn't he get like sunned by Christian Laettner in a game? But all right. So let's get our 4 real quick. Okay. We got Bird, we got Jordan. Kareem was 1, but we're not using him since 1980. Do you feel more confident with Kevin Durant or Steph Curry? Because I feel like one of them's on this list.
I feel more comfortable in Durant.
I feel more comfortable with Steph.
Yeah, it's just a.
Steph averaged like 26 points a game at Davidson.
I know, but it's
correction 2. And I'm not going to count it against you. I forgot. Kareem, it's from 1976 specifically because that's when the Wooden Award was introduced.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's fine.
So we technically have 3 then?
No, we have 2.
No, Kareem, I'm not going to count Kareem as a strike against you. He never won it, but that's just because the Wooden Award hadn't been introduced yet.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
All right. So we have 2 right with 1 strike.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question real quick? I can't. It's cheating. I was going to be like, is one of the 2 people that we're debating over on this list? I mean, I say we let the chips fall where we lay. We should be at 3. If we guess both of them, we'll have 2 strikes and be at 3.
So I'm trying to even think of all the dudes and
because Kobe Bryant didn't play college.
Nope.
Like Shaq, Like Jordan, we already named. He dominated the 90s. Like how many more players won a Finals MVP? Hakeem Olajuwon came. No, it's like how many people won a Finals MVP, NBA Finals, and won a Wooden Award? Like this, it can't be that many. There's only 2 more, obviously, but like there's not many more opportunities. Who won the Finals MVP the year Boston beat LA? Paul Pierce. He wouldn't be on there. Like I'm just doing like.
Paul Pierce is really good in college, dude.
All right, give me Steph Curry and Kevin Durant.
All right, well, Kevin Durant is indeed one of them. So that is 3 out of the 4. Steph Curry is not. So you are down to your last strike.
We got one more guy. I mean, we're doing pretty well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an easy question.
You know?
So the fourth one, last 15 years, first 15 years.
I can't give you that.
Okay, that means he doesn't. It's kind of around 2005, 2006.
No. I know for sure when it where it lands, but if I give you that, I think you would get it pretty easy.
Okay. Well, you got to think Finals MVP, and there's not many of them.
Well, who won the Finals MVP for Boston that year? Was it Pierce?
Yeah.
It might be him, dude. I'm not saying it is, but he was really good at Kansas.
I don't. I think he was picked 24th, bro. And he's never won an MVP. So what are we talking about? He never won an MVP. Yeah, got to win an MVP. He's never won an MVP. Let's just go through MVPs for a minute. Steve Nash. He never won a Finals MVP. Dirk Nowitzki came from Germany. I'm going in my head, right? Like I'm going in my head. LeBron James didn't go to college. Kobe Bryant didn't go to college. We're thinking MVPs now, right?
Yep.
So just going through them. Stephen Curry obviously was wrong. Kevin Durant won one. Russell Westbrook never won a Finals MVP. James Harden never won a Finals MVP. So just think about the MVPs. Giannis never won a Wooden Award. It's got to be further back. Am I crazy to think that it's got to be? Moses would be a good one, but it said it started in 76, and Moses' career started before 76. And he did win an MVP. He did win a Finals MVP. But the problem with Moses is it can't be Moses.
It could be Moses.
No, he started his career before 76. The Wooden Award was introduced in 76. Moses started his career in 72, 73. He was old in 83 when they won the. Can't be Moses. We went Bird. We went. He said no for. Well, he didn't say no for Magic, but he kind of stopped us. Like right. He didn't. He kind of like blocked the Magic. Gave us like a nice hint. It wasn't Magic. MVP awards. The Jordan. He just swept the 90s. Who won an MVP award the 2 years Jordan didn't win the MVP? Shaq. Tim Duncan. He didn't win MVP. Did he win MVP? Did Tim Duncan win MVP?
I mean, I think we're just running out of freaking people here, man.
Did Tim Duncan win an MVP? That's my question.
I mean, I think if he did, I think that's probably the answer. I mean, he was
unbelievable. Wake Forest.
I would say I fully believe that he won a Wooden Award.
He won a Finals MVP in 2001.
Right.
I don't know if he won an MVP. What year would he have won the MVP? Tim Duncan. Let's do it. I'm done.
I'm fine with Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan.
All right. Well,
let's go. I love it. Yeah, that was great. Good mind mode. Good mind mode. That's why we're a trivia team right here.
Want to know on the leaderboard, wire to wire, baby.
Oh man, that's fun. That was fun. I love that. Can we do that weekly, every week?
I'm down.
All right, let's get up the combine.
Speaking, man, there's about to be some upsets.
And by the way, Tim Duncan won MVP 2002, and 2003. Went back to back.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I had no idea.
All right, so just got the schedule here. I know it's a little tough to read for us, but basically, easiest way to put it, DBs and linebackers, they go on Thursday. You will have your DBs and your special teams players go on Friday. Your quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends, they're going on Saturday. And then you will have your offensive linemen and running backs going on Sunday.
I mean,
Easy
it's
schedule.
interesting. I think it's really interesting that CJ Stroud and Will Levis chose to throw and Bryce Young didn't. Bryce Young's going to throw at his Alabama Pro Day, which I understand that. Like, if I'm Bryce Young, I don't want to throw multiple times. I think that people are going to get enamored with Will Levis's arm and overdraft him. Did you see the odds from Will Levis being the first quarterback taken off the board went from plus 10,000 to plus 700 in like a span of 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of that too is that the Bears have, and obviously, I think everybody had an idea that the Bears wanted to trade out of that pick, but after their GM basically came out and said, "Hey, we're shopping this pick," and everyone seems to believe that the Colts are going to do whatever it takes to go get that number one pick, and they love all the reports that they love Will Levis. Like I see how the odds got there. Um, Bryce Young not throwing, I think it makes sense for him. He's already considered the best quarterback in this class. So, why would you need to throw? Like, if you've seen everything on film already from me, there's nothing that I can prove to you
I
throwing
think
without my
Bryce Young
pad.
looks bad if he throws.
What do you
In a
mean he looks bad?
situation like, follow me, in a situation like the combine, just going off arm talent and ranking the top three quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Bryce Young, who ranked them 1, 2, 3, just arm talent.
It's Will Levis.
Will Levis, CJ Stroud, and then Bryce Young 3.
But if
Um,
I think I'm saying
yeah, probably.
if I'm the number one guy and you already got questions about my height, my weight, all this stuff. Like I won a Heisman in Alabama. I been to a national championship game at Alabama. Like you've seen what I can do on
Yeah,
film. Like I'm not.
agreed.
There's nothing that I need to do to prove myself. For CJ and Will, it makes sense because it's like, hey, let me put some doubt in your mind about who the best quarterback in this class is. Like if you're CJ, you're going out there saying, "Hey, I throw. This is how tough I can throw. I can hit the outside hash with this anticipation." And for a guy like Will Levis, it's like, "Hey, I could put the ball 70 yards on a rope, without hardly bending my arm." So, I think it makes a lot of sense for CJ and Will to throw, but for Bryce, like a lot of the things that puts him in that number one pick territory is things that you won't see at a combine. It's his escapability, his ability to make plays out of nothing. So if I'm Bryce, it makes a whole lot of sense not to throw here to me.
Oh, speaking of Anthony Richardson, Tyone just brought that up. Um, man, he is getting overvalued too, man. Like it's so absurd.
He's way worse than Will Levis. What's going on with him, in my opinion? I saw a thing the other day with Will Levis. I think again, I mean, we talked about it before. Kind of what I compare him to. I think he's a less cocky, smarter, more coachable Jay Cutler. I saw a clip the other day where they were like, here's like each of like, you know, Will Levis's 12 interceptions from this year, and like four of them were like balls that went right between his wide receiver's hands. The one hit the dude in the face mask and bounced up in the air. And the rest of them were all like forced throws. Um, I would like to see. It's really hard when you play the what if game, and when you're drafting a kid, that's hard to do. Like, what does Will Levis look like if he went to Ohio State? You know what I mean? And play with that receiving core, or Alabama, and vice versa. Um, I think people are high on him because you look at his arm talent and you look at all the physical gifts he has, and if you believe enough in your coaching staff, they think they can make him into a good quarterback. Um, I still think he is being overvalued. With all that being said, I think if you take Anthony Richardson in the top 10 picks of this draft, I think you're nuts. I think you are absolutely nuts. Everybody keeps saying like he's Cam Newton, and I'm like, okay, like I'm not taking Cam Newton with a top 10 pick. That's not what I, if I'm trying to build a team, that's not what I want. Um, I guess if that's what you're looking for, that's great. I think Anthony Richardson is an enormous project, and to draft him in the top 10, I think he's going to be anywhere near ready to play in the next, starting next year, I think is just absolutely ludicrous.
I don't disagree with you. Control?
I disagree with the Cam Newton thing. I think if you can get Anthony Richardson to turn out to be Cam Newton, I think you have a superstar on your hands. Like I get Cam Newton in his past few years has been bad, but let's not forget the guy went 15-1, won an MVP award, and went to a Super Bowl. Like I think if you bring in that kind of talent, then you're definitely on the right track. Now, I'm not saying that I think Anthony Richardson can be Cam Newton, but if that's his comparable, like if that's the comparison that you want to put on him, and you think that one day he can get to that level, then I absolutely think he's worth being mentioned in this top 10 conversation. And I would be inclined to take him. Now, I don't have Anthony Richardson as my top QB in this class or top 3 or anything like that. Like I do think it's crazy just because of how much of a project that he is. But I think if he goes to the right system, like he has arm talent and he has the ability to run with the football, but he's got to fix a lot of different things. His timing, his decision making. He wasn't in a good system there at Florida, and then his first year there, first year actually playing, and then having one season under Billy Napier running a completely different offense. Like you got to fix a lot of things that have been broken with his mechanics, but I wouldn't take him that early. Like I'm not trading up to take a guy like Anthony Richardson. But talking about the other guy though, Will Levis, there's absolutely no way that I'm taking Will Levis in the top 5, top 10. I am not taking. I'm just not doing it. I keep saying that my comparison for Will Levis is I call him Midwest Sam Darnold because I think that's what he is. Great arm talent. He's going to turn the ball over a ton, and I just don't see it.
I mean, Jay Cutler's another good comparison too. The arm talent's there. He just makes a lot of really bad decisions, and he doesn't show up ever versus good defenses. It's over and over and over again. Anytime he's played a good defense, he's looked awful. Now, could that be the skill position players in the offensive line? I guess. But some part of me has to blame the fact that he went to Kentucky. Like, I'm not like.
No, I agree. I mean, again,
Right?
I mean, that was the thing. Like, that was half of the clip was like all the interceptions he threw. That they were pretty much saying like, not one of these is on the quarterback. But then the other ones were all bad. They were all balls that were forced into double coverage or thrown into zone coverage, and he didn't see a guy. And again, I think we all agree across the board he's somewhat of a project. I think the upside with him is if you believe enough in your head coach and your quarterback coach, you could get some of that out of him. And when you're placing him with a better offensive line, his offensive line in Kentucky was terrible, but I think the upside with him is a lot higher. I'm not kidding you, dude. Unless Anthony Richardson fell to me in like the 30s and I was going to take him, I wouldn't touch him. The kid is, I don't care what kind of offense, he was in Billy Napier's or the year before when he was still in, what's his faces. He can't read a coverage. He struggles to throw the ball in any kind of tight window. He's a great runner of the ball. He's a great athlete. I wouldn't take that away from him. I just think he is so far away from being a productive NFL quarterback. It's crazy. There's no way I would trade up to get him. Like none.
I mean, best case scenario, what's Anthony Richardson?
I mean, I like the best case. His ceiling, I think, to me, would be Cam Newton.
I think his ceiling's Jalen Hurts.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever that good.
No, that's a ceiling means at his absolute peak, he could be what Jalen Hurts was this year.
I would be shocked if he ever has a year anywhere near as good as the year Jalen Hurts has had.
What's the absolute peak? I think Hurts can get better. I think his ceiling right now is this year.
That's my point, and my point is I don't think he can do what Jalen Hurts did last year.
I agree. I agree with you.
I mean,
there's not one piece of tape other than him running the ball. There's not one piece of tape you could show me. Orlovsky went off over it the other day. He's like, I struggled to find tape of him throwing the ball to show you anything that would encourage me as an NFL team to take him.
For sure, project. Gene, I'm curious though. I was gonna say I'm curious to know So I said my ceiling will be Cam Newton. You said yours would be Jalen Hurts. Where do you like? Is Jalen Hurts like a step higher than Cam Newton, 2 steps
No,
higher than
I
Prime?
think
Or
right now he's a step lower than Cam Newton's prime.
okay,
Cam Newton
okay.
won an MVP, bro.
No. I 100% understand that. I
Yeah.
was just saying I wanted to make sure, like, to get an idea,
But I
like
think
where you
Jalen
might
Hurts
fit.
is still growing.
No, I agree there. I
So I
agree.
think his prime is still there. I think he'll be better than Cam. I think his
Yeah,
ceiling is better than Cam's. You know what I
agreed.
mean?
I agree.
But like right now, I would say it's a step down from Cam. I think the best season Anthony Richardson will ever have will be ceiling would be what Jalen Hurts just did this past year.
So many. I mean, again, situations. We talk about it all the time.
What's Will Levis's ceiling?
Situations definitely
A
matter.
bad Josh Allen year?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the prettiest picture in the world.
My other thing too, I'll say, Josh Allen this past year had a good year, and it's not to beat down on him at all, but we saw what his turnovers looked like a year after having Brian Dable being removed. And so I'm not saying it's all on Dable not being there, but I think a big part of that, like what Dable was coaching him, cut down on those turnovers. And I don't, Will Levis is going to have to go to a system where they beat down on him about the turnovers, because coming out, Josh
Indy's
Allen
not
was
that system.
agreed, because they clearly don't care. Carson Wentz turned the ball over and Matt Ryan turned the ball over, so clearly they don't care.
Shane Steichen's there now. I think Steichen's a very good offensive mind, but
I get it, but at the same time, like Steichen, I'm sure has a lot of the same philosophies as Frank Reich. Like,
yep.
So you're going to see a similar. I think Steichen will be fine, like at the job, but you're going to see a lot of similarities from what you had with the last regime. So I don't think Indy would be a great situation for him. And if he's turned the ball over like that, like I don't think you can get over with Josh Allen. You can get over it because of his ability to make the big play. I don't think you can get over it like that with Will Levis.
Yeah,
so even if
I
it's a
hear you.
bad Josh Allen year, like I don't know if he's worth being a top 5 pick.
Okay. Anybody you're interested in watching their combine?
A couple people. Josh Downs is going to be one of the receivers. I think he's going to absolutely fly on Saturday. I think he's going to have a chance to go low 4.3s. The corners, I'm excited to see those guys. I don't know if I haven't looked up on it yet or not, but I want to see if Keely Ringo is actually going to run, because there's a lot of talks about him being a low 4.3s kind of guy. And I think if he can run that fast, that's going to put him back in the conversation to being the first cornerback off the board, because I feel like a lot of that's kind of shifted since the end of the college football playoff. Obviously, it's still going to be a first-round pick, but I think if he flies, that's going to be a real interesting, draft stock move there. And then the other corner I want to see is Eli Ricks.
Okay. Anybody you're really interested in looking at, Charlie?
I do want to see the QBs throw. I am curious to watch CJ and Will both throw with the bigger ball. I think Cottrell hit on it earlier. I think you look at the arm talent. I don't think CJ's that far away from Will. I think Will has a stronger arm. I think CJ's a little bit better touch and depth to probably, all three areas of the field. I think CJ Stroud could do himself favors in the combine. I really do. Again, I think Will Levis is going to make probably a couple throws that like some crazy ass back across his body, and they're all going to be trending clips. It's going to be a lot of like the
Malik Willis and Zach Wilson
effect.
Yeah, I mean you're probably going to see like a crazy Zach Wilson throw, and and again, I mean you've already seen it. We've been talking about it for months. Like people are just in love with the way he throws the football, and I get it. But I mean, if you don't have it between the ears, it's just not a position you're going to excel at. I'm curious to watch the running backs and see how they all fare. I know Bijan's going to be a full participant. Uh, but the cornerbacks, Cottrell highlighted as well. I'm curious, see how Eli and Keely do. For me, they'd have to have excellent combines to kind of wash away the bad taste I think they left in a lot of people's mouths after the way the college football season ended. So, um, it's always fun because you always have guys that surprise that come out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you start seeing their names, bolt up the board and everything else. So, I like it for that and the surprise of it. And a lot of these kids, it's like their last shot to really, have a chance to get drafted or show out because they don't have huge pro days like an Alabama does or Ohio State or Michigan or whoever. So, um, I just like watching it and catch as glimpse of it, as many glimpses of it as I can. It's hard to keep up with because it's literally on all freaking day, but it's fun, and I was, I'm assuming we're gonna get into this next, but I was curious to see Jalen work out because people said he lost like 15 pounds and he looked great. I wanted to see him run and see what he was going to do, and obviously that whole debacle came up today. So I mean, he left and went back. So we're not going to get any of that now. So that'll be another interesting story to watch.
I think he slips a little bit. And I
I
think if
think,
he's there at 10, I think that the Eagles have to take him.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what the point is that kind of like you said, if he does slip, like where somebody has to say we have to almost to some degree risk it and take him. I don't know what that number is.
10.
I think with all the teams up top that are, well, I mean, we're saying that selfishly because we're at 10, but
Yeah.
I think with so many of the teams up top that are quarterback hungry, and then we know Will Anderson's going to go somewhere in the top five. They can eliminate some of it. It's really curious. I feel like it's going to be kind of like a draft day thing with like Bo Callahan. Like I don't think anybody's going to expect, nobody was expecting Jalen Carter to be there at like 6 or 7, and now he might be, and really curious to see what everybody does.
Man, I take him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think the biggest thing is now. I wish this would have happened. Not that I wish it would have happened at a different time. I wish it didn't happen at all. But with it being so close to the draft now, you're really not going to have any idea of how it's going to play out or what's really going on with it yet. And I
and
think
what
that's the
truths are going to come out. Like,
correct. Like how much of it is true, how much of it can be, what charge is going to be dropped. Like you're not going to have any of that disposition done before you have to draft a kid. And I think that's the tough part. And it's definitely a situation where I hate to say I told you so. This is a prime example of why the NIL crap needs to be supervised and not just a wild wild west situation. There's no reason a 20-year-old should be driving around $100,000 700 horsepower Jeep. Just none on a college campus. Like it's just stupid. And, at the end of the day, he still did what he did, or he's accused of doing what he did. But um, we got to be better with these kids, man. I mean, I know we're trying. I know. In spirit, the NIL is to help them and help them start off their lives on the right foot because they do make so much money for these universities. But just giving them the keys to these cars or just giving them money, like that's not helping them. You still got to remember their kids. Like these kids need to be supervised and help to not make bad decisions like this. I mean, he's a 20-year-old kid, man. Like, and now he's being attached to something that killed one of his teammates, and he might have been a part of that caused it. And I mean, the whole situation sucks. And of course, the NCAA is nowhere to be found as usual. I don't know, man. They got to get a hold of it sooner than later. I knew something like this was going to happen, and it just sucks. And now it's front and center.
It's a good time to get into. You got to be kidding me.
I mean, I think even too, like, you talk about NIL, like obviously that's a big part of it, but I think another big part of it too is that you have this that it was considered a national championship, game celebration party, um, where I don't know what coaches or what staff members of Georgia were all there, but it was a thing where like the whole team was together and they did the blood toxicology reports and all that. Like, obviously these kids were able to leave drunk. Like that's insane to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Um, So of course NIL is a big part of it, but I don't see how there's no one there that's responsible enough to say, hey, we're all staying here or anything like that. Like there has to be someone there to just regulate it, I guess. Like and there's no way you can have the celebration, alcohol being involved, and you have no one there to step in to make decisions when you have all these kids in front of you. Like I don't understand it.
Let's get into you got to be kidding me. Okay, Charles, start us off.
All right, so I won't use Jalen Carter. I'm sure one of you will, or if not, we just want a lot into it. But I want to go to a team that I've started to love to hate, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm going to go with the most recent report of Ja Morant accusations, and that's Ja Morant was accused of punching a 17-year-old boy 12 to 13 times and flashing a gun at him during a pickup game last summer, according to a police report. Ja Morant, you just signed a contract that pays you upwards of $200 million. You should have a personal bodyguard. You don't need to have any firearms on you, whether they're registered or not. Of course, you can have your firearms. I'm not saying that, but you don't need to be walking up, pulling out a gun on anybody. You should have people that you pay to do that if you want that kind of security. And not to mention, it's a 17-year-old kid. You just laugh at this kid and keep it moving. I got $200 million, and you're still in high school. Like go study your algebra 2 or whatever. So Ja Morant for continuously, not even just Ja Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies and everyone on their roster for continuously to find something else they can do that's not focused on basketball this week.
On, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just went into mine, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. I really don't know, you know, where some of the, where all the blame, whose feet this gets set at. And if everything Jalen Carter is accused of doing, he did. I mean, yeah, a lot of it still gets put at his feet. But at the same time, again, I think the NCAA once again has just absolutely dropped the ball with not supervising this NIL and really kind of washing their hands of it and leaving it to be on campus and again I think Cottrell brought up a good point as well. I mean one of the people that were in one of the cars was a recruitment staffer for Georgia. But I mean you just pretty much had a championship parade in your town, for winning a national championship, and you have a bunch of underage kids, drinking. And I mean, again, we've all been in a college atmosphere. It is not hard to find alcohol on a college campus, and you're never going to be able to stop everybody from drinking. That's impossible. But that being said, kind of like Cottrell said, I mean, there's got to be somebody in charge of making sure all these kids got back to their house. Um, and there's no way you can let a bunch of guys, that have been drinking, get into their own separate cars and start ripping around town. If you read the whole report, I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, they're probably all lucky that there was only the one accident and the one fatality, but um, they got to do something. I mean, there has to be a better system for these kids to be able to go to school, get their NIL money, but have it be controlled or at least supervised and overseen, to avoid some of this stuff. And I think this is just going to keep happening with some of the deals these guys are signing. Again, Jalen Carter's a 20-year-old kid that's, still going to get drafted and make millions and millions of dollars, but he's a 20-year-old on campus that's driving around $100,000 car, that he doesn't really need to have at that point in his life. But the whole situation, I think, sucks. It's tragic. It's sad. And it's I think the NCAA somewhere just has to freaking do something and do their job and put some kind of rules and regulations and restrictions in place for this and let it set up to these kids have their money when they get out of school or when they get drafted, if they leave early, whatever it may be. But just handing these kids briefcases full of cash is just not the way to go about doing this. And that's pretty much what they're doing right now. So like I said, we gotta let it play out and see what comes out to what's true and what's not. And Jalen Carter today said a lot of the stuff in that report is not accurate. So I mean, we're gonna see. I hope for his sake that it's not, but police report's pretty damning on the other side as well. So the whole situation out in Georgia for me this week is my, you gotta be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
My you gotta be kidding me is two people this week, and it's Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. There's a couple reasons why, but let me start with saying that Jake Paul and Tommy Fury talked a real huge game before they fought. And I get selling fights is huge. I understand that. Jake Paul said his goal was to fight Canelo Alvarez. And he lost to a boxer that has is combined record of people he's fought was like 400. Tommy Fury beat a YouTuber and celebrate like he won the damn World Series, like the Super Bowl. Tommy Fury's dad is on social media saying, when are we going to get our money? And the fight just happened Sunday. Like, we need our double money. And like, just, it's embarrassing. And I don't mean to be, it's just a mockery. And I streamed it and I didn't pay for it and I won't pay for it. But it's a mockery to the sport of boxing. And Jake Paul and Tommy Fury put on an awful show. It was a hug fest so bad that the referee had to deduct 2 points for holding too much and hugging in the fight. A lot of trash talk both ways of how each one was going to knock the other one out. It went to a decision, which is very predictable. It was a bad fight, and it was embarrassing. And it was embarrassing on all ends, from the trash talk to the begging for money to the I'm going to fight Canelo Alvarez and just everything about it. And I'm kind of glad Jake Paul lost, but it doesn't mean it's the end of him, because you're going to see another fight he promotes versus another celebrity. But at what point are you celebrity boxing as opposed to competitively fighting? For this reason, Tommy Fury and Jake Paul.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I mean, fun show, guys.
Yeah.
And it's only up from here. We are at the precipice of March.
A little birdie told me Cottrell will be on Saturday's trivia show.
That is
good luck, bro.
You got one question wrong.
Trying to replicate the energy.
You gotta listen, Wire2Wire. I mean, I feel like it's child's play, right? Like, I feel like it's like we're men playing against boys. But I fully expect to see you and Kyle in the finals. But we'll see. Well, I guess we'll see when we get there. But any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I got one if nobody else does.
Nothing from me.
I gotta wish my little guy, Jonathan David, my nephew, happy second birthday. This past weekend, we're gonna celebrate again this weekend. He still remains, to believe, our youngest loyal fan. He watches with Travis every week almost. I always get pictures throughout the show of him sitting there watching. He recognizes me on TV, which is a really cool thing for me. So he's only 2. He won't remember this one. So hopefully we're still doing the show in like 5 or 6 years where I can give him like real ones and he can listen and understand what the hell I'm saying. But until then, I love you, buddy. Happy second birthday. I'll see you this weekend.
Happy birthday. Well, that's show 125, and we had a fun show. And this is Wire2Wire Sports Podcast signing out.